Canon has just announced 3 new lenses today, 2 of which I have here. This guy is the RF-S 10-18 f4.5 to 6.3, and this guy is the 200-800 f6.3 to 9. And that same day, Jabari also took a look at the new 24-105 f2.8, which he breaks down later in this video. Now, we're going to be talking about these 2 lenses in this video today, and as I'm sure you can see, these 2 lenses are incredibly similar to each other in that they are both made by Canon, but otherwise are about as wildly different as they could possibly be. This is an ultra-wide zoom lens. This guy is a super telephoto zoom lens. This guy is made for APS-C cameras. This one is full frame coverage, but we only have one day to do this video, so we're going to be putting them both through their paces, showing you what you can do with them. Now, if you are interested in the 10-18, skip ahead a little bit in the video, and we'll be talking about that later. We're going to start with the 200-800, and while I'm setting this up, future me reading from a script is going to tell you a little bit more about it. I'm not sure what I was talking about there because I never read from a script. Pause for laughter. But I can say the 200-800 was a blast to use for the very brief time that we had with it. This lens offers a ridiculous zoom range and robust build quality at a very reasonable price for what you're getting. And I think travel, sports, and wildlife photographers especially will get a lot of use out of it. So let's start with that zoom range. 200-800 millimeters is seriously flexible. At the 200 millimeter end, you're getting an f6.3 lens capable of grabbing beautiful portraits, architecture, and wildlife photos. But at that 800 millimeter end, you're getting an f9 super telephoto lens that can magnify images to a jaw-dropping degree, especially when paired with a 2x teleconverter for a 1600 millimeter maximum zoom. And yes, you did hear that right. This lens is an f9 at the 800 millimeter end, which means you'll definitely need to be shooting with plenty of light available when zoomed all the way in. Now, fortunately, the 200-800 offers some seriously impressive stabilization to help you achieve the smoothest results possible. At the full 800 millimeter end of the lens, you get 5.5 stops of built-in image stabilization, which is great by itself, but at the 200 millimeter end, this goes up to 7.5 stops of image stabilization. Now, unless you're a seasoned wildlife photographer, it's kind of next to impossible to get a photo of a seagull flying in the sky at 800 millimeters while shooting handheld. But with the stabilization enabled, we were able to grab these stills with shockingly few misses. Although we also really appreciated the seagulls that just stood perfectly still and let us take photos of them too. Another reason we were able to shoot handheld was because this lens is actually pretty lightweight. We had accidentally left our tripod in our pier space when we went outside to shoot with the 200-800, but we discovered that we honestly didn't actually really need it. The lens is just 4.5 pounds, which is pretty solid for a lens with this zoom range. And with a width of about 4 inches and a height of just 12.4 inches, it's also small enough to fit in just about any standard photography backpack. Finally, on the lens itself, you get all of the usual buttons and dials you'd expect. 2 lens function buttons, an IS switch, and a combined manual focus and control ring. The lens itself features 3 UF glass elements, SSC multi-coating, and a weather-resistant design. It's also a nano USM driven lens, which lends itself to quiet autofocus performance when recording video. And finally, in case you were wondering, despite the white color of the lens, it's technically not part of Canon's Pro Line L series of lenses, but from a distance, it should still be convincing enough to make other Canon shooters jealous. You might get some whiplash now, so hang on, because on the complete other side of their lineup, Canon also announced their new 10-18 f4.5 to 6.3 lens for their APS-C cameras. This ultra-wide zoom lens is seriously compact. For content creators, vloggers, travel landscape shooters, or anyone looking for a compact and flexible zoom lens, this 10-18 is a solid and very affordable option. Now, this 10-18mm is a 16-29mm full frame equivalent, which covers a pretty healthy range of wide angle shooting situations. For vlogging or selfies, the 10mm focal range is more than wide enough to get you and your background in the frame at the same time. And the reasonable 4.5 maximum aperture will allow you to get some of that sweet bokeh. And the 18mm end allows you to punch in just that extra little bit for when you don't want everything in the frame, or if you want a little bit less of that distortion found at the 10mm end. Although we should note that if you shoot JPEGs with this lens, Canon actually applies distortion correction to the image, and based on our test photos, it works extremely well. The 10-18mm is also stabilized and features a completely new optical design from Canon. This includes a 7-bladed aperture and 12 lens elements, 2 UD and 1 aspherical, that result in much better edge-to-edge sharpness than Canon's previous EF 10-18mm. It also features an STM drive system for smooth autofocus performance when recording video. Finally, it also features a minimum focusing distance of just 5.5 inches when using autofocus and 3.4 inches when focusing manually. Now, regarding the physical lens itself, there's quite literally not a lot to talk about. It's 2.7 inches by 1.8 inches with a weight of just 150 grams. You get a clickless control ring on the body itself, and when paired with an ultra-compact camera body, like the R50 we were shooting with, you were able to get some truly excellent optical quality in a package with an incredibly small footprint. And those are two of Canon's new lenses for full frame and APS-C bodies. While finding a single location to test these two extremely different lenses was challenging, getting nice looking photos on them fortunately was not. While aimed at completely different users, both lenses do overlap in providing useful zoom ranges and robust performance at prices that are within reach of just about any Canon photo or video shooter. But now without further ado, here's Jabari to talk about the new 24-105 f2.8 that Canon also released.
Aperture or zoom range. Normally you'd have to choose one or the other. Either you go for the 24-70 to take advantage of the 2.8 aperture, or you get a 24-105 but you're limited to f4. But what if you could have both? According to Canon, you can with their new 24-105 f2.8. We're here on a shoot in the West Village testing out Canon's new lens to see if you can have your cake and eat it too. Canon calls this lens a true hybrid, equally optimized for photo and video professionals. And to their credit, there's a lot to love about this new lens. Photographers will appreciate the detachable lens foot, function buttons, and up to 8 stops of image stabilization. Video shooters will appreciate that the lens focuses and zooms internally, features a dedicated iris ring, and optional power zoom adapters. We'll get into the details later. First, let's go over the basic specs. The RF 24-105 f2.8L covers full-frame sensors, is composed of 23 elements in 18 groups, has an aperture range from 2.8 to 22, and features 11 aperture blades. The minimum focus distance is 17.76 inches throughout the zoom. The lens has 5.5 stops of image stabilization, which can be increased to 8 stops when used with a compatible Canon camera body. Now, if you're familiar with lenses, then your first thought about a full-frame 24-105 f2.8 lens is probably that it must be pretty big, and you would be correct. The 24-105 lens uses 82mm filter threads and weighs 2.9 pounds. To put that in perspective, the 24-70 f2.8 weighs just shy of 2 pounds, and the 24-105 f4 weighs a little more than 1.5 pounds. The 24-105 f2.8 is significantly heavier than both lenses, but is decisively less than their combined weight, meaning that it would be much easier to carry one 24-105 f2.8 than a 24-70 and a 24-105mm f4. Regarding handling the lens, I found the lens easy to work with when paired with a professional camera body. We tested it with the R5C for photography and the C70 for video, and in both cases, neither the size nor the weight got in our way. The length of the lens meant that my hand naturally wanted to be a bit further forward to support the weight, and this made it easier to take advantage of the new function buttons. This is Canon's first standard zoom lens to feature customizable function buttons, which are normally reserved for super telephoto lenses like the 400mm f2.8 L USM. On the 24-105 2.8, the function buttons felt very natural. I had to have my hand on the lens to support the weight, so I was happy to know that I could assign an important function like eye tracking autofocus to a button on the lens. Finally, thanks to 5.5 stops of image stabilization, I could comfortably walk around the West Village and take photos of landscapes, nature, and people without worrying about blurry images from camera shake. The lens was easy to work with for video as well. For handheld shots, the weight of the lens was an asset as it was already less prone to camera shake and micro jitters. Balancing the C70 with this lens on a gimbal was also very straightforward. The size of the lens means you'll need a larger gimbal like DJI's RS3 Pro, but once you get this lens balanced, it doesn't get much better than this. The lens zooms and focuses internally, meaning it won't unbalance gimbals as the gimbal operators adjust the lens. The lens also has an optional power zoom adapter, making it possible to hand off zoom control to a second operator. On the topic of power zoom adapters, there are two options. Both zoom adapters have USB-C ports, but one of them also has a 20-pin output for Canon's ENG-style zoom and focus controllers. New firmware for the C70 will also make it possible to assign zoom control to the camera body's joystick. For variable speed control, however, you'll need the 20-pin version to take advantage of Canon's ENG controllers. Professional camera operators will appreciate the ability to achieve the same fine-tuned controls they're accustomed to on their high-end broadcast equipment when adding C70s and mirrorless cameras into their camera setups. As one of Canon's L series lenses, it should be no surprise that the lens performs well when it comes to image quality. The lens is more than capable of taking advantage of the R5C's 45 megapixel sensor, providing pixel peepers with tons of detail to inspect, even when taking photos at maximum resolution. The bright 2.8 aperture makes it very easy to isolate your subject, making it an excellent lens for portrait work. Out of focus areas are smoothly rendered with beautiful round bokeh that becomes slightly cat-eyed towards the edge of the frame. The minimum focus distance is 17.76 inches across the zoom range, making it easy to frame and capture beautiful images up close to your subject. Video shooters can rest easy knowing that whether they choose to shoot in 4K or 8K, the lens is up to the task, and with a bright 2.8 aperture, it's capable of filming in challenging environments. Canon has achieved a lot of firsts with this lens. It's their first RF photography lens to feature a dedicated aperture ring, first standard zoom lens to incorporate function buttons, first hybrid lens with an output for professional ENG camera controls, and most importantly, the first 24 to 105mm f2.8 lens. Whether you're interested in photography, video, or both, Canon's latest hybrid lens has a lot to offer just about everyone. The lens frees up professionals from having to choose between aperture and zoom range, and marries the best aspects of photography and video lenses. Canon's 24 to 105mm 2.8L is an excellent lens for photo and video professionals in search of one lens for all their needs. So, what do you think of Canon's new lenses between the RF-S 10 to 18mm f4.5 to 6.3 IS STM, RF 200 to 800mm f6.3 to 9 IS USM, and RF 24 to 105mm f2.8 IS USM Z? Which lens is your favorite? Let us know in the comments below and have a spectacular day.